anytime the city of New Bedford gets to receive an oversized check is a good day, and today's one of those days. In fact, today this is currently the second time I've been able to receive a big check, an oversized check on behalf of the city. So I'm pleased today to be here with EPA Regional Director Kurt Spalding, with whom we have a terrific partnership here in the city, to announce EPA's issuance of a Brownfields Grant that will enable the city of New Bedford to clean up this site here on Union Street. The grant addresses a real need for cities like New Bedford. Here's the problem. So a little bit of history. This site was for many years a gas station and a automobile repair shop. I can remember it as a kid. It was always sort of falling apart and decrepit, and the city took this property in tax title about 3 years ago or so, and demolished the remaining buildings and left this vacant space. The city, in the meantime, was able to secure, through collaboration with EPA, an assessment grant that enabled the city to determine the extent of the contamination here. If you have an automobile repair shop and a gas station in place for many years, there is bound to be some level of hydrocarbon contamination. You know, gasoline leaking into the soil year in and year out. Of course, there was. So that creates a problem for anybody who might want to reuse the site. This is largely a residential neighborhood. It'll remain so. But with any level of contamination, developers think twice about investing their money. Whatever the cost is here ultimately is something they have to factor in to their development plans. And so with that deterrent in place, many developers look elsewhere. And so we are left in many places around the city with vacant lots like this. So herein lies the beauty of the EPA's program. It really is a means to bridge the gap between what exists now, an empty lot, and redevelopment. It makes it economically viable for developers to come in and reestablish activity at the site, whether it's residential or something else. Here, in all likelihood, it will be residential, and enables the city to help. It enables the city to help revitalize the neighborhood. This is a terrific West End neighborhood, and it deserves to have something better than a vacant lot. So, so this is money, and I know this is very important to Kurt, the way he approaches his job. EPA is in the business not just of enforcing the environmental laws and helping clean up places, but it's also in the business of determining where the federal government will get the most for its money, and that means leveraging public financing, public dollars leveraging private dollars with public dollars. When the government spends a little bit of money and gets private sector actors to jump in, that's a good thing for everybody, especially the community where it's done. So that's what's going on here. So EPA has, in its grant, sent the city $200,000, which will be in the ballpark of what it'll cost to clean up the site. As I said, this is a residential neighborhood. The vision for this space is one that will be formed not by just the city, but also with the neighborhood. But as a residential place, we'll look to rebuild here residential properties. How many will fit here is an open question that'll be subject to the planning process. As you see here, the land extends back some ways. In all likelihood, we will look to offer some part of that part of the property to abutters. The city has an abutter program in place, has had it for some time, in which it offers abutting properties to responsible homeowners, and this seems like a good candidate for that. So all that is subject to planning. But today, we're just grateful that EPA has stepped up in a big way to help revitalize this terrific neighborhood. While I'm up here, let me give thanks to where it's due. As I said, Kurt Spalding has been a terrific friend of New Bedford in his position as the regional director of EPA. His region encompasses basically all of New England, right? In his position, he's responsible for a host of EPA's activities in this region, virtually everything that EPA does, including environmental enforcement on the civil side and on the criminal side, where I used to help out. It is heavily involved in cleanups and assessments and everything else that EPA does. I've often joked that EPA should set up a satellite office here in New Bedford, because pound for pound we have about as much EPA activity here as anywhere else in the country. If you look at the Parker Street waste site, the harbor cleanup, the South Terminal permit, and on, Goodyear, I mean, the list goes on and on and on, unfortunately. But we are fortunate that we have someone who understands New Bedford's challenges and is willing to put the might of the federal government behind our efforts. So we really appreciate that, Kurt. Let me also mention to the offices of Congressman Barney Frank and Senator Kerry for supporting EPA and the types of programs that enable EPA to give out money like this. It is Gonzalez Drolet is here from Congressman Frank's office, who in a way is doing a victory lap, right? Because your time there is running down, and as well as Megan Leahy from Senator Kerry's office, who's right there. We really appreciate the support from both of your offices and both of your bosses. Let me also say thanks to Henry Bousquet, who's the Ward 3 councilor, a big advocate for environmental cleanups. Where's Henry? You see it? Oh, there's Henry right there. As well as Pat Sullivan, who's the head of the city's Office of Housing and Community Development, who spearheads many projects like this, along with, last but not least, our Environmental Stewardship Office. Michelle Paul is our new Environmental Stewardship Director, and the Assistant Director, Cheryl Henlon, both big proponents of these types of reuse programs. So with all that, this is good news. We're very pleased that we're going to be able to reactivate this property to the benefit of the neighborhood. And Kurt, I'd ask you to come up and say a couple of words.
Thank you, Mayor. Very, very pleased to be here. As the mayor says, we come here a lot in a lot of different ways with a lot of different hats on, but he's absolutely right. No community in my region gets the connection and attention that New Bedford does. And I'd like to think most of it brings out a better community for all, whether it's cleaner water, land cleanups, economic investments like this. In the end of the day, I think the long-standing work with successive mayors, Mayor Mitchell included, has brought New Bedford to a different place than it was 20 years ago, and I'm very pleased to be part of that. I also would like to acknowledge Michelle in her new job. Congratulations. Going to be exciting. I guess Matt's not here, but we always have a good relationship with Matt Morrissey and Pat Sullivan. Very pleased that you could come. Of course, Megan, we see you from time to time. Great for being here. Inez, great. And Henry, I don't know you, but thank you for all the work here. This thing doesn't happen but for that. Of course, we have Joe Ferrari, who's actually our EPA person who's helped make this project happen. When it comes to brownfields, we've done very well in New England, and I want to make a point about that. What I mean by doing well, we have actually received a big portion of the national amount of dollars that are given out. In the neighborhood of $17.2 million has come to New England for brownfields projects this year. That's a big chunk of the nearly $70 million that the federal government put aside for brownfields investments. And that happens for one important reason. It's the capabilities and competencies of communities like New Bedford and the leadership of mayors like Mayor Mitchell. These things are competitively gotten based on a point system from projects all over the country. There's nothing set aside to me, Kurt Spalding, oh here, go make Mayor Mitchell happy, or to the Congress representatives here. We know how hard Barney Frank has worked for New Bedford, But Barney has not been able to direct these monies specifically. What he always did was make sure there's a lot of money in the fund so that New Bedford and other communities in Massachusetts can compete successfully. But in the end of the day, it's up to communities like New Bedford and all the communities in Massachusetts to make it happen, and our state partners for making it happen. It doesn't happen without that kind of effort. So I'm very proud to be involved in giving away this kind of money. Again, it speaks to one important thing that isn't always emphasized with EPA, and that's the contribution we make to economic recovery in this country. We gave away a lot of money with the ERA funds, and we spent it all, and we got it out on time, and a lot of it went to brownfields work. We spend a lot of money on infrastructure, all of which contributes to economic vitality across New England. So when it gets right down to it, our work in many ways is as much about economic redevelopment and vitality than it is about traditional ways you think about environmental protection, a water quality standard or an air standard. Yes, we care firstly about public health, but we also care very much about economic vitality for communities. So now I think what we'll do first is get my big check out and give it to Mayor Mitchell. I would like to ask Megan, is she still here?
Yeah. I think Millie has some remarks. Let me introduce Millie, and then
Millie goes first, and then I'll do the check. That sounds great.
All right. All right. A couple of other folks I wanted to ask to the podium. The first is Millie Garcia Serrano, who is the Regional Director of Waste Site Cleanup at the Massachusetts Department of Environmental Protection. The same, what can be said for EPA can also be said for DEP. You guys have a lot of business here in New Bedford, and I know your regional office is in Lakeville, Millie, but I think you could open up a sub office here in New Bedford with all the stuff that we have going on. But DEP has been an enormous help to us here in New Bedford with all the complicated environmental issues that we deal with regularly, and you know our city well. You've been a great supporter, and we'd love to have you come up here and offer your remarks.
Thank you so much, Mayor. So appreciate it. Mayor Mitchell, Mr. Spalding, elected officials, and distinguished guests. Every year, Mass DEP has the good fortune to join in with our federal sister agency, the US EPA, as well as the leaders of the Southeast regional municipalities, for the purpose of celebrating the awarding of Brownfields program dollars that serve to fund the assessment and cleanup of parcels that are identified by numerous cities and towns, 350 cities to be exact. Today, we find ourselves celebrating yet another victory by the city of New Bedford, a city with an extraordinary legacy of success when it comes to applying and securing funds that will further their brownfields redevelopment vision for healthier and, for certain, more sustainable community. Some of the examples of the New Bedford's redevelopment legacy include, for example, being selected as an EPA Brownfields Showcase community, receiving the Excellence in Local Government Award through NOAA's Excellence Awards program for all the progress that it made redeveloping brownfield sites. Also, EPA, Mass DEP, Mass Development grants, numerous of them over numerous years. The city is also very unique in the way that they establish partnerships, and that's something to be commended of. Partnerships with public and private sector to support environmental, social benefits that come about when you reach out your hand and say, I'm here to help, I'm here to serve. And not just addressing cleanup, but also envisioning what the site can be once it's cleaned up. Today, New Bedford continues to build on that excellent tradition by being awarded $200,000 from the US EPA for the purpose of cleaning up petroleum-contaminated soil at this former garage, and that used to be located right on this property. Once this property is all cleaned up, the city will seek the redevelopment of this property for residential end use, and as the mayor described, also potentially opening up additional green space throughout this community. So on behalf of Commissioner Kimmel from the Mass DEP, I reiterate our strong, very strong commitment to assisting this city with this and any other brownfields project that serves to promote the city's goals of assessing and cleaning up abandoned, contaminated properties. I wish to thank Mayor Mitchell and the EPA for their resounding commitment to the city's environmental agenda, which is extremely important in our eyes. The fact that this year, our Commonwealth of Massachusetts received $6.75 million to support cities and towns throughout the Commonwealth is beyond impressive. The groundwork has been laid. The momentum is building towards a cleaner future here in the city of New Bedford. Our agency, along with our Southeast Regional Coordinator, Mr. Gerard Martin, looks forward to continuing our strong working relationship with the EPA, the City of New Bedford, our state and local partners, to once again show the South Coast that the City of New Bedford continues to lead by example. You do it well, and we're watching. Thank you.
All right, next up, I'd like to ask Inez Gonzalez-Drolet for her remarks. As I said before, Congressman Frank this year is doing a bit of a victory lap around the South Coast. He's been such a dogged and skillful advocate for our region for so long, and we will certainly miss having that kind of heft in Congress. And Inez has been a local emissary of his for so long. She lives in New Bedford. Her roots are here, and she's been so responsive over the years on behalf of the congressman and for the city. And so it gives me pleasure to ask Inez to come on up and offer the congressman's remarks. Thanks, Inez.
Thank you, John, so much. That was so kind. Thank you, Mayor Mitchell. That was so kind of you. I am pleased to be here today on behalf of Congressman Frank to congratulate the city on being awarded this grant and to thank the EPA for their continued commitment to the city of New Bedford. Through many years, you can say, and the mayor has said that, the EPA has been one of the city's biggest benefactors of federal funds. It is rather sad that we have to say that because we have needed their help to correct the sins of the past. But it is also good to know that they have been there for us for so many projects, big and small, from the New Bedford Harbor to Parker Street to Arrowbox, Atlas TAC, and small grants along the way for cleanup and remediation projects, much like this one, to job training, environmental justice, and now going forward with initiatives for green technologies and programs to help us reduce our environmental footprint, just to name a few things that they do. I want to recognize Mayor Mitchell, the Mayor's Office of Environmental Stewardship, especially Scott Alphonse, who worked there for so many years, and he was so fantastic. And also Patrick Sullivan, really, and Mayor Mitchell and the mayors before him that have worked so hard to secure these grants. I know with Mayor Mitchell's leadership, the city will continue to fight for these federal dollars and bring them to New Bedford going forward. As our time draws to a close, I want to take this opportunity to thank the EPA personally for being one of the best federal agencies. I think I'm going to cry because, hey, I've been around for 27 years and 2 congressmen, and we deal with a lot of federal agencies, and they have been absolutely wonderful. You call them, they answer the phone. They're so responsible. There hasn't there hasn't been a question or a concern or a request that the congressman or his staff has made that they haven't been willing to help us with. They have such efficient, fantastic, knowledgeable staff. You guys are really the best, and it has been such a pleasure working for you and with you. So I want to thank you so much for all you do for the city of New Bedford, really what you do for the entire country. We're only one city amongst all the cities that need help and that you work and do such important work for. And I want to also thank you so much for helping with this grant, give this little piece of New Bedford on Union Street a new life. Thank you so much, and Godspeed to you all. You are great. Thank you.
Henry, did you want to speak? Henry, did you want to speak? Oh, no, good. Thank you. Okay, all right. Yes, how can you top that, right? You know, your news conferences usually don't evoke that kind of emotion. But, you know, Inez has been doing this for a long time and has served our city so well. And we got to find some way, Inez, to keep you plugged in and keep you contributing to our community. Kurt,
My resume, John.
you got it. All right, email it over to me. Let me before we turn to the check presentation, and we are looking forward to our check, Kurt. Let me just also thank you as a side note for all the work that EPA is doing on the South Terminal permit. It is a complex project, as we all know. Everybody's been working very hard to make a go of it. It's not a done deal yet, but I think the kind of hand-in-glove efforts that we have on the local, state, and federal governments is really really moving the ball down the field, and so we appreciate all the effort in that way. So we are ready for our check right now, Kurt.
I wanted to, I'd be remiss if I didn't say up front that the partnership with the state is so important, and I want to congratulate the state of Massachusetts. I just checked my notes. I think you got nearly $7 million out of a $70 million fund. That means the state of Massachusetts is taking home 10% of the dollars that were awarded nationally, and that's a huge number. Your number one is right. And the other thing that's important about that is the leadership at the political level. Lieutenant Governor Murray and his Brownfields Task Force, the state has put together such a laser-like effort on brownfields. It's really remarkable, and we're very lucky in that way, because in reality is they're not our projects, they're your projects. So congratulations. So it is now my pleasure, and I want to ask Megan and Inez to come up, because we always do this. I always remind everybody that this money really doesn't come from EPA, it comes from the Congress of the United States.
Upside down.
Why don't you come over here, Mayor? And for these two young women who can come on up. And congratulations, sir.
Thank you.
Wonderful. Yay,
Wonderful.
yay.
All right.
Go cash it.
Stop. Go cash it.
We need a big pen to
Again,
endorse it.